Can I get, can you two help me for a second?
Yeah.
We're gonna walk across campus for a second. Gotta grab some resources.
Yeah. Most of them.
The front left, yeah.
But also like this, the non, like the teams you can sit in, right? The problem with them is that they gave in the back. Yeah, exactly. Especially if you have like first. We can all sit here, all three of us. Yes. I don't go to the bathroom when you went to the bathroom, I just wanted to wait until between class.
Seven, brother. Give me your.
Well, I was saying that because there was a girl in front of us who's saying you can't sit in those volume. Yeah, exactly. It'll scooch up even higher.
I would like to recognize
I wonder how awkward that is if she's trying to get the attention. Because he doesn't deserve it, I can tell you that right now.
So, listen, you use it always.
Yeah, I know. I know. I'm the first one
You realize it's
every time.
I've never said that.
God, right? Well, also I have an argument like when they have this.
Yeah.
Oh, I like this. I like that one too.
If that was nice, harder.
But you actually like did different things. I sort of just tried
Different things.
That's a good.
Oh, it's really small. I redid mine.
I did mine.
Like I texted him about it. I was
This
like,
is what mine looks like. And it looks like a man did it, because my artist is a straight man.
What is that?
It's not the man cave, there's no razzle dazzle. There's no razzle dazzle.
I'm gonna order from the last class.
So it's like the way you are.
It's like nice.
I don't like
work to do this.
I rearrange everything. I've left everything on because
Oh, how's your magazine cover?
how was yours?
I can show you mine.
Yeah, okay, good.
Mine doesn't look that good.
Yeah, me too.
It's not that
I'm
bad.
also with mine, like.
I love yours.
Like the problem is those sentences. I like it.
I didn't like opening like that one.
I like it better than the ADF version because it actually cuts the
I like that. Right.
But I like the they don't look like that, but it's something that I could
Why did you use that?
yeah, I used to from the colors and pieces.
I didn't mind
I took the Indeed.
I
don't know.
I didn't care for us.
When we did the
What
package.
would you say?
Looks nice.
Mine looks okay. I
Yeah,
want
actually using, I can pack it in the folder, but I can also come through the thing. Actually, last time I tried.
So I think that's just.
Yeah.
This is right?
I've seen his work.
Did
you? He's pretty expensive, this guy. He's really expensive. This is one. Yes, Haitian credit. This one.
I like the packet from.
Yeah.
And then they show.
I was trying to make.
Oh, God, these are
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
I guess maybe because it's like Vogue is like the largest part of Vogue.
Yeah.
Like for me, I was just like, for artists, like, you know,
Watching your stuff, you put it at the bottom here, and then this is the off.
yeah.
And then the next one I do like all like never, right? And then I try to do like in the middle, and then just off. So I don't know. I'm leaning for this one, and then
I like
something
that
like.
one.
They have another one like the last one.
He's really busy, so the only way I can get the text in their text box. It's hard. Yeah. I don't know how you value this.
My back is like. Yeah. This is like a cigarette commercial.
But you know what this looks
Hers looks really good. My artist is pre-1930s, so exactly, so I tried to make my design a little bit. Yeah, like he created his work, this was done in 1930s. So I tried to emulate the design to be a little bit more.
That's how I didn't mind, because it's like if you're
Okay, and that's the color. Actually compare. It's very good.
So essentially, like, it's like what I wanted this.
Literally just.
The way that. So this was color of the universe.
There is.
And yeah, and so on the right.
One bad thing about that.
Communism versus capitalism.
Okay.
And so
this
it's
has
a
a-
very like
Thank you, guys.
Oh. There's like I went in person and saw this movie.
All right, how are we doing today?
It's like
Everyone feeling good about layouts, wireframes? We're good? All right.
There's a lot of juxtaposition from.
We still have a couple of minutes. Settle in.
Oh, yeah.
Really quick, all of you guys online can hear us? We're good? I can see myself, so that's a good sign. Thanks, Renan. All right, I employed two of your peers to help me bring some of these out. These are here from you guys. These are UX notebooks. If you already have a notebook that has dotted paper or blank paper, I would recommend to use those. These actually aren't that great, but if you're strapped and you do need a resource, you are welcome to one of these. I typically prefer blank paper over even like dotted paper, but dotted paper is fine too. What I don't want you guys doing is getting like, here's the reason why these are bad. These are a little bit too restrictive, right? They end up kind of locking you into what just the screen above the fold looks like and doesn't really allow you the space to design below the fold. There's a couple of different device types in here. I would say it's definitely heavily on the mobile side. There's some tablets in there. So you don't have to use these, but they are here for you if you do need a resource. So help yourself if you would like one. Really for this, if you guys have plain computer paper, that is probably even better. I want to take some time walking you guys through a little bit of sketching for UI environments. Now, a lot of your classes are going to teach you to design mobile first. And I would say that that is always a good recommendation, especially in today's environment where every single one of us has one of these in our pocket. However, for this assignment in particular, I'm actually going to advise the opposite. You guys are designing these UI screens for your portfolio, your own personal portfolios. So there's a worksheet, there's a spreadsheet in each lab from this point going forward through module 5. My recommendation is to do that worksheet, that spreadsheet first, because what that is designed to do is to get you thinking about the content, right? It's really hard to design a website or really anything without quite knowing what the content is yet, right? It's easy to go in there and kind of put some blank space in there, but maybe a little bit harder to know exactly how much space or how big it's going to be, things like that. So the worksheet is there to get you to start thinking about we'll start with lab 5.1. That worksheet is there to get you to start thinking about your personal statement and your bios. And I swear to God, if I see another UX designer that's like, I want to be a UX designer so I can empathize with users. It's like, no, you don't, get out of here. It drives me nuts because I really want you guys to take a step back and think about, why are you here? What is it that you want to do? What is the career or the goal that you have coming out of this UX program or this GIT program or this HSE program, whatever program you're in? What is your goal? Because I can't think of anyone who, when they were 5 years old, was like, I want to run Scrum meetings and design screens for companies and make. No one says that, right? Like that's not your goal. I want you guys to think intentionally about what you want to bring to the table and what skills you have to offer towards that. It's very easy for all of you guys as college students to say, well, I've never worked in the industry. Even if you have, like maybe you have a couple of years of experience, but maybe you don't quite feel like you have the power to make any sort of big change. Screw it, right? Now's your time to start thinking about what you bring to the table, because everyone's is going to be a little bit different. I mentioned that I'm going to advise that you guys work with desktop devices. I'm going to set the precedence right now that that's going to be 1440 pixels. Wide. Everyone can read that. Sorry. The reason I'm specifying the width is because, again, this is very easily divisible by the rule of eights, right? The length of that page really doesn't matter. What does matter is what's above the fold, right? Different devices have different folds. That's just the nature of the world we're in these days. The other day, I think I saw a screen it was a single screen that was about the width of like one of those U-shaped screens that was like the width of 3 or 4 screens. It's getting ridiculous. We cannot design for all of that. So that said, set your width to 1440. That's a good standard. There are screens that are higher than that, I get it, but oftentimes when you go to build your portfolio in something like a website builder, whether that's, in this class, I'm going to recommend to all of you Squarespace, just because I am a registered Squarespace expert, I can help you with that. But if you use something else, I am obviously going to try to help you with that, but I may not be as much help. Something you can start thinking about now, but don't necessarily have to start thinking about. There is a little bit of a cost associated with Squarespace if you want to publish it. Otherwise, what will end up happening is you will have to keep your website private, and it will have a password. That is not a bad thing, but without paying for it, it will expire in 60, 90 days, something like that. So you have some time to work with it. But that's just something to start thinking about. It is worth the investment cost for you guys to pay the $120, $130, something like that, to publish your portfolio. Because that could lead to you getting a job that's worth 60, 70, 80,000 plus dollars. Okay, I saw a hand.
No, actually just, I think.
Did I answer it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So think about return on investment, right? I understand that some of us might be eating out of ramen noodle cups. So if so, let's find a workaround. There are free-ish options, but what I'm going to deter you against are things like Behance, Dribbble. Adobe Portfolio makes me a little bit cranky. So just watch out for things like that. Those actually aren't portfolio sites. Those are social media sites. Okay. Okay, we've established our width. When it comes to sketching, particularly low fidelity sketches, right? And really, we need to get the word low fidelity away from the word sketches. Those are not adjacent or synonymous in any shape or form. Although your low fidelities will end up mirroring your sketches, you would never, and I swear to God, if someone ever does this, you would never go into a meeting with a stakeholder and say, here's my sketches. Pay me 20 grand, please. Not professional, don't do that. Oftentimes what we will do is we will start sketches for ourselves, okay? Again, what have I said quite a few times about the trash can? This industry is not about the one idea that made it across the finish line, it's about the 40 ideas that are still sitting in the trash can. Get comfortable with throwing out your ideas. To give you a little bit of perspective, there is a trade-off that happens. The earlier in the life cycle of a project that you are able to make changes, the less expensive those changes become, right? If you make a change right when you first start, that is going to be exponentially less expensive than when you make a change at the very end of a project. You don't want to be that designer that is ready to launch a website and goes to the developers and they're like, wait! You don't want that. Those are expensive changes. So get comfortable with ideating very early in the design process. Explore every option while the consequences are as easy as, well, that looks like shit, let's try again. Easy, right? Much easier than, oh, I don't like it. Let me go back and rework all of this and move the type and maybe we change this color and this image is all wrong, right? Those are expensive changes, okay? So we've set up our width. I want to go over some norms when it comes to designing or sketching, rather, I should say. Because there are some synonymous shapes and uses for shapes that will help your sketches translate more clearly. Notice what I did here. What did I just do? I just drew a frame, right? I'm already doing this wrong. The minute you draw a frame first, you're doing it wrong. Design backwards. Design all of your content, then add the frame around it. That way you're not constrained. That's also part of the reason why I say that these are a little bit problematic. They're here for you, but you want the freedom to kind of think, okay, well, what if I had an image here? And then what if I had body copy here? And then what if and then you can add the framework. Okay? So let's get rid of this. Don't start with a box. Why? Because you're already constraining your ideas. You're already taking your concepts and saying, I only have this much space to work in. Guys, a website can be infinite. That's kind of the beauty of working with the web. So let's see, most of us designing a portfolio probably want to have a nice image. Maybe it's a headshot, maybe it's one of your key case studies, maybe it's something. Let's go with the headshot, for example, because that's one of the requirements that I'll ultimately have for you guys when you get to the end of the class, is that you'll want to have a headshot, your personal statement, and some of your case studies above the fold, along with like your logo and things like that. So there's already, just with that information, so many different ways that we can design this. We should also be thinking about our navigation, right? I think I have 5 pages that I'm calling for you guys to design. There should be a home page, there should be an about page, a case study page, a case study summary page. I'll explain that in a second. The case study page, and then a contact page. So really, because if we're looking at this from an information architecture perspective, home stands on its own, about stands on its own, case studies would be its own thing, and then within the case studies, you would have multiple case studies. Does that make sense? So for this assignment in class, you just have to pick one thing that you've done in this class to write a case study about. Okay? And then from there, you can add on to your portfolio outside of class. There will be one other project that you'll add to this in class, but that'll be module 6. And then what did I say? Contact page? So there's our navigation, right? Really, from a top level navigation, we only have 4 items, right? And then within the case studies, there's multiple case studies. So we know, start thinking about your requirements, right? So from the home page, let me back out a little bit here. Oops. Too far. Online, are you guys? Oh, geez, this thing's touchy.
What's
Wonderful.
your goal?
Sorry, guys.
Are you able to hear me?
No, come back. It's always so much fun. Okay. Are you guys able to still read what's on the board?
Well,
Maybe
we'd
just zoom
love
in a
to
bit.
tell you, but you can't hear us. Can you hear us yet?
We can't hear you unless I have the screen down, and I need as much whiteboard space as I can possibly get. So I'm going to just zoom in a little.
Oh, good.
There we go. Okay. So starting to think about our requirements, we know that on the home page above the fold, we need to have our logo or name, right? Better? We'll do. Logo or name. We also need a headshot. Personal statement. And then a few case studies. Okay, those are our requirements for the homepage, okay? Now that we know all of that, let's start thinking about how we might want to lay this out. Obviously, there are a few conventional areas you might put a logo, right? Oftentimes top left, maybe top right, depending on where in the world you're from. I will say that in the US, it's probably most common that it's top left or center. Okay, so let's start with that. Already we have two variations of a page that we can work with. So here we can do logo. And then obviously from there, we need to add some sort of navigation, right? Since we're working with desktop navigation here, that's pretty easy. We can say, done. Header, finished. Or at least one iteration of the header, right? So we've got that. Now, we know we want some sort of headshot. And since we've learned grids now, we might want to segment our page so that the content is a little bit easier to read. Maybe I will, just to offset the visual cue that's over here, maybe I put my headshot over here. Maybe I put my personal statement. There we go. Let me switch markers here. This one's dying out. There we go. That's a little easier to see. So notice what I'm doing here. We're working very quickly, right? This isn't taking me very long. Anyone that's afraid of sketching, we're working with elementary shapes here, right? Nothing too crazy. Universally, a box or a circle with an X drawn through it is almost universally recognized as a placeholder for an image. The reason that we do this is so that we don't have to spend a bunch of our tedious time, because again, how do you make money in this industry? By how quickly you can move, right? So we don't want to spend a bunch of tedious time in here sketching what our face might look like based on our headshot. It's a waste of my time. I'm trying to get very quick ideas. That's why this is called rapid ideation, okay? You're trying to come up with ideas very quickly and then move on. Now, I mentioned already, we've got 1, 2, 3 things checked off the list. I mentioned a few case studies above the fold. That doesn't mean that the whole case study needs to be above the fold, okay? Oftentimes with a case study, you have what is called a primary or a leading image, something that is, think of this like a YouTube thumbnail. Something that, I'm going to use the word clickbait. You don't want it to be clickbait, but you want it to be something that entices the recruiter, hiring manager, whoever's looking at your portfolio, client. You want to entice them to click into a project that looks or feels or sounds similar to whatever it is that they do in their industry, right? So when I say case study above the fold, let's say that the bottom of our screen is right there. That was a pretty straight line. Did everyone see that? I'm pretty proud of that. Maybe it's going down a little, but that's pretty straight. If that's my fold, right? Really, the whole thing doesn't need to be above the fold. You can just have something, we have my alignment here. My box sizes are a little off. I only get 1 praise per day. Maybe it's something like that, right? And then from there, maybe we have title, title, title. We're moving really quickly, right? Already, we have most of our requirements for the homepage. You might have a few additional case studies down here. Maybe you add a little form down at the bottom so that people can contact you. Maybe you have a little about section down here. I don't know, you can add on to this, right? But by and large, this here is the makings of our homepage, right? Any questions on this so far? Notice that I'm not spending a bunch of time writing in my literal personal statement. Right, that's not the expectation. The expectation is move quickly. All right, let's see if I can do this without completely screwing it up. Yay. Yay, okay. Sorry, I moved the camera over so that we can do another experiment. So this here, this is one iteration of just the home page, right? I'm gonna put 1.1 on that and circle it. We need to do a really good job because there's gonna be so many variations. You guys are gonna have 50 sketches here. There are going to be so many variations, you're gonna need to keep track of what's what, okay? From here, if I did an iteration on, I'm gonna erase this, we're good here? My next iteration here would be, let's say, my about page. That would be 1.2. Here, this would be my case study summary. This would be 1.3. Case study. $1.4. You get the picture. 1.5 contacts. Good. Does that numbering system make sense to everyone? Anyone confused? Sweet. All right, I'm gonna get rid of these. So this is my first iteration here. What would my next iteration be? 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, 2.4, and 2.5. What would my next iteration be? 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, 3.4, 3.5. Make sense? Okay. You're gonna have 10 iterations. Okay, that's how you end up with 50. Why do we do so many iterations? Anyone? Everyone's tired?
You mentioned that before, right? To get all the bad ideas out and try and have something that you have.
Yeah.
That you can work with.
Is that extremely innovative? Does it look good? Be honest. No, it looks like any website homepage you've ever seen before in your life. There's nothing unique or special about this. So,
What would be in the about page? Cause I feel like from what I've seen, the personal statement and the profile picture is usually what I see in the about page.
yeah, good question.
You know,
So in the about page, what should be in the about page?
like
Or you.
I know it's a little bit about you, but like what else?
You're gonna get a lot of different people that tell you a lot of different things. This is what happens when you enter a portfolio space, is you're gonna get a lot of advice. And frankly, no, let me finish my first idea and then I'll come back to that. You're gonna get a lot of advice, and that advice is exactly that. It is just advice. None of us really know what we're doing when it comes to making our portfolios. All we're doing is I'll tell you what I've done. I've taken a very research-minded approach towards my portfolio. And what I mean about that is I've gone and talked to dozens of recruiters, dozens of hiring managers, and all the questions that you guys have in the spreadsheet, those are the questions that they're looking for answers to in your portfolio. That's why they're in there, right? So that said, I will tell you my philosophy on an about page. You will get a lot of people who tell you other things. Some people will even tell you you shouldn't have an about page. I teach this in my 550 class, which has a job readiness section in there. When I'm looking to hire someone, whether that's for my studio, whether that's for a company that I'm working for, doesn't matter. I think this is not unique to the US, but it is in the sense that we spend more time with the people we work with than we do our own families. When I'm looking to hire someone, what I'm looking for in their about page isn't that they know how to empathize with users. It's not that they have, although this is nice to have in there, 20 years of experience working in UX. I don't care about any of that. What I care about is that you're not an asshole. Period. And I have a strategy in how I do that. I try to find things about me that I think others can relate with. Because what is that one little thing that's a little bit more personal and not work-oriented that might get me the call to come into an interview over anyone else who didn't have that in their portfolio? That's what I'm looking for. So what I'll do is and I don't do this so much anymore because my portfolio is a business, it's a company, but what I used to do is I would take photos of me and my husband out on a hike, or maybe us with our dog, or things that I like to do, like candle making or whatever. Because those little things, even if the hiring manager is like, oh, I have a dog too, that's one little thing that they now associate with you. I'm also like a huge gin fan. I love, like, my hooch of choice is gin. And so, like, if I'm showing some drinks that I've made or something like that, or out at a bar, having a good time, whatever, curate that, because depending on the work culture that you're looking for, I'm kind of out of the let's all have beers at work kind of work culture. That's a thing, that doesn't make it wrong. But those are things that we're all human. You know, the hiring manager on the other side of the screen is a human, right? And we can tap into psychological influences such as simple as, oh my gosh, they have a dog, that dog is so cute. They want to hire the dog more than they want to hire you, right? Or the cat, or whatever, right? Like, think about those psychological influences. I want to see your life outside of work on your about page. And then a little bit of work.
Yeah.
I want to know about you. And what often tends to happen is your about page becomes almost a quasi-resume. And that's not what I want. And again, I'm only speaking for myself here, but I have spoken to a lot of hiring managers who look for the same thing. And it's that human element. I want to know that I'm not hiring an asshole.
So just like, okay, that pretty much answers my question, because I would have assumed that it was more along the lines of the resume.
Yep.
And so like, would you start with something that's similar to your personal statement, like a little bit, like, you know, the interview question, tell me about yourself, like a sentence on that, and then go into more personal details.
So your personal statement is more career oriented.
Yeah.
There's some guidance in the spreadsheet. Your bio is going to be that sort of mix of personal and career, right? Like, I want to know your journey. I want to know why in the hell did you wake up someday and say, I'm going to go to school and learn UX? Because I guarantee you, when you were a 5-year-old, you didn't tell your parents, I want to be a UX designer when I grow up. Right? It's not most kids' vocabulary. At least not your generation. Yeah. Okay. We're good on about pages? That was a conversation that needed to be had anyways. But I sort of diverted from where I was at here, in that we can make another iteration of this homepage, and it doesn't take much. Here, we put the logo on the left-hand side. All right, let's fuck around and find out a little bit. Let's put the logo in the middle. And then maybe we've got boink, 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 boink. Navigation. Done. Now we have 2 different headers that we can experiment with. Okay, we put the image on this side here. What happens if we change it completely? What happens if we go for a circle image now? Don't stop me if I'm going too fast. Headline. Personal statement. Here we put case studies there. What happens if we sort of stagger them? Iteration 2, done. Somebody time me. Tell me when to go. Somebody tell me. Say when. Stop. How long did that take me? 31 seconds. You should get under a minute. You should be able to do 50 sketches in under an hour. Cool. It's called rapid ideation for a reason. You don't want to get stuck on this stuff. You want to think very, 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 very quickly so that you don't feel like you have to spend so much time making it perfect. Is that perfect? No. Do I have a direction and an idea that I can move in? Absolutely. Yes.
So are the case studies just like, you said it was a thumbnail, right? And it'll go to the case study.
I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the difference between the case study summary page and the case study page, because that can get a little bit confusing. The case study summary page, and I'm going to give you guys the greatest tip that took me 10 years to learn. Particularly if you guys are going to use Squarespace or Wix or UXfolio, whatever. It's going to be really gosh darn tempting for you to go into there, and it gives you like this really fancy like portfolio page, right? Like it actually uses that word, and you would think psychologically that that's what you ought to use. I don't recommend it. And there's a lot of reasons for that. But number one, every time you add a project, you then have to go and like reflow your entire website, and that sucks. Thing number two is if you use a blog instead of the portfolios, it'll automatically resort your projects for you. It'll always put the most recent project at the very, very top, and you get better SEO from it. So if you're just out on the web and recruiters, this is not happening in today's day and age, but recruiters are just out looking for a designer that's open to work, they can Google you and find you based on the type of work that you do. You have to be a little bit knowledgeable in writing for SEO, but by and large, having a blog set up as opposed to a portfolio setup gives you a little bit more of that SEO. Additional benefits. And I'm going to tell you guys all of this from a place of pain. And that is that when I worked for previous employers, to be unnamed, you oftentimes in a creative industry, you have access to what is called privileged knowledge. You might have access to upcoming product releases. You might have access to sensitive user data. You might have access to whatever. So oftentimes companies will put people like us, creatives, designers, researchers, they will put us on NDAs, non-disclosure agreements. Take GIT 550 to learn a little bit more about those, but what they do is they restrict what you can say and what you can show. However, when I was working at this place, I had done a lot of work and I had white labeled it and I had put it on my portfolio. It was white labeled, no one could tie it back to whoever the company was. The company still forced me to take it down. So what a blog setup allows you to do is individually password protect individual blogs, as opposed to having the entire page locked. So that way you can still have it there, but only give access to certain people, say if you're going for a job interview, but you don't want your former employer knowing it's there, right? So little things you learn. Still not ideal. You still just want to keep your NDA clean, but that's a way to get around it. Well, we've all been in situations. In that situation, I had actually ended up losing my job because of it. And so not only did I now not have a case study that I could put on my portfolio, I now had to go find a job without the work that I had done for the past 3 years. Which was, to that point, the largest work that I had done in the industry by far. It was the best example of my work that I could show, and I couldn't show anyone. So you can imagine how devastating that is. So, difference between case study page and the case study summary. A case study summary should be the high-end page where you go and you have several different case studies that I can click into. Go take a little field trip to my portfolio if you'd like an example. You click on work. I think it says work. Navigation's changed a couple of times. You click on work, you get a preview of several different case studies, and then you can click into an individual case study and read more about that. Okay, so where you can read more about that work, that's the individual case study. You will have one case study for each project you do in this industry. And then your case study summary should just be a list of all of those. Any questions on that? Okay. Additionally, I want you all to think about something. How tired are you guys right now? Genuinely. So. A little bit. Everyone's probably a little bit burnt out, right? And I respect the work that every single person brings into this class, but this ain't even it yet. I'm just being real with you guys. You'll get into the industry and you will have, on a good day, 10, 12 projects on your desk at one time. You have the luxury in college of having maybe 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe on the high end projects going at one time. Double, triple that, right? That is just normal. Now think about at the end of each of those projects, adding that work to your portfolio after you're already tired and burnt out and still have 11 other projects that you have to keep going with. And updating your portfolio is the single hardest task we have in this industry. And not only that, we are among the only professionals where the norm and the standard for you to get a job is to show proof of your work. Outside of maybe like some pretty intense accounting and like financial management jobs, I can't think of another industry that does that. It is unique to our design industry. So it is something that we all have to stay on top of. Where I'm getting at with this point is don't make it miserable and even more work for you to update your portfolios. The reason I have taken the time to go and interview dozens of hiring managers and portfolio experts and recruiters to build the spreadsheet that I've given to you guys in class here. By the way, I run that with every single one of my classes. The reason that that's in there is because it is a systemic way that you can start approaching every single portfolio project. Will every question on there be relevant to every project? Probably not, but it is a great starting point. And then what you can do from there is once you've written that out in the spreadsheet, everyone listen to me because this is a hack. You take it and you drop it into ChatGPT or Claude or whatever, and you have it drafted for you. And then you go in and you revise it. And then maybe get some feedback from some peers, and then revise it again. And then throw it again and ask it to summarize it, and then revise it, right? Like you can do it so much faster. You guys have the luxury of not having to genuinely write case studies. There is still some writing involved. You still need to give it the context of the work that you've done. But use AI for what it's worth, right? It's there for you guys. Use it. This is a tool that back in my day, right? Like we didn't have it. But now you bet that I use it all the time. Get comfortable. Yeah.
I basically just wanted to ask, like a lot of the times the work that you're doing is proprietary knowledge, but you're also saying that
To be careful with that.
and that like my assumption like a workaround for that is to make it password protected, because I've seen that before.
Yes, so that's where I'm saying with the blogs, let's say that I'm gonna hit 2 points here.
Okay.
In your portfolio, excuse me, If you use the blogs instead of a portfolio, you can individually password protect one project as opposed to password protecting the whole case study summary page.
Okay.
It's a weird quirk, you'll understand it once you get into Squarespace or whatever site builder you end up using. But yeah, that is something to think about. That was point number one. Point number two is when it comes to proprietary work, if you, let me grab the right words here. If you are working on something proprietary and you are trying to add that to your portfolio, do not, and let me say that a little bit more clearly, do not put anything related to that product into an AI tool. I'm gonna let that sit for a second. The reason you don't want to do that, unless of course that tool was built by your company or the company that that work is proprietary for, that might be okay. You should read your contract before you do that. Because then that knowledge, you have shattered your NDA. And it is traceable, believe it or not. So I'm trying to be careful because I spent a very long time in my career being afraid of things that I didn't need to be afraid of. So I don't want to instill that into you. I had a professor that told me your company is going to track every single piece of paper that you take out of the printer. And it's like, okay, yes, can they? Do they care? Not so much.
So can I make
Other
a comment on
things,
something about
they
this?
do track and they do care. And it can be a very small thing.
It's
So
like a security problem at that point as well, so.
yeah, I mean,
So Professor, can you hear me?
you are still an individual agent acting on behalf of your company or your organization or wherever you go to work. So you still need to exercise caution and care, especially when you're dealing with proprietary data, proprietary information, or protected information like usernames, passwords, social security numbers. When I was at Drive Time, we had access to an obscene amount of user data. And we were all federally mandated to keep those things secured. And if we didn't, we personally became liable, not the company. The FBI could come crash in my door if I leaked those users' data, and they don't. So it can get a little bit scary, but just exercise ethics, and everyone should be okay. All right. Any questions on that before we talk about some sketching moves? Okay. We've talked a little bit about speed. These are rapid ideations. So what are some of the things that you can, or elements that you can use in order to help you exercise with speed? We've all seen a shape, whether it's a square or a rectangle or a circle or I don't know what shape that is, a blob. Yeah, it's not quite an octagon, it's kind of just a blob. But thank you for being kind. Any shape with an X drawn through it, you can almost always indicate that this is an image of some sort. Personally, I use this to indicate both image or illustration because I view them as largely the same things. I have seen, now there are instances where maybe I don't do that. I have seen some people illustrate or denotate illustrations as just a blob. I think that's a little bit odd. If you are going to deviate from kind of like the standard shapes, because there can be images, especially in like modern design aesthetic, you can very easily make an image with a border that is slightly amoebic like this, right? So I think that that's just gotten more confusing now as design has become a little bit more organic. If you are doing something like an icon, oftentimes icons will have some sort of structure. And so it's helpful to differentiate your images from your icons. So for example, if your images are all going to be square, make your icons circles, right? Just kind of establish a guideline and then just use it consistently. For example, for my range and focus website that we're rebuilding right now, a lot of our icons are shield shaped. So rather than using any of this, we've started sketching those like that. So we know that, oh, this is going to be an icon versus our images are always square, right? So you can pick your poison there. Oftentimes, headlines can be denoted in two ways, and it depends on how quick you're trying to sketch and how much content you actually have. Or can I get rid of this? Okay.
Yes.
So you saw me do headlines really one way. You can spell out a headline, or really it doesn't even need to be the actual headline, but like what kind of content is going there, right? You can spell that out, or you can just as easily draw a box like that. Don't put an X in it, just draw a box. Okay. Body copy is almost, actually, let me go one row down. Even if you had sort of a sub headline that was a little bit smaller than, say, just a regular headline, I would do the same thing, but I would just make that box a little bit smaller, like that. Okay. Even if it were 2 lines, same. Okay. Body copy. This one's pretty easy. You guys have seen me do it in a couple of different spots. Just lines. Oftentimes you can draw them in 3s or 1s, or you can really make them as long as you want, but you really don't want to waste space. You kind of want to get a good idea for the feel. Low fidelity sketches aren't really the place to get the spacing just right yet. Again, sorry, I said low fidelity sketches. Just sketches. We'll get to low fidelity in a second. We're good on that? Anything else that, I mean, really by and large, you're mostly going to be working with images, text. Maybe I'll show you a video if you feel like a video is going to be in there. Usually videos are horizontal, although that is changing. You can do that, put a circle. There's your video. Okay. There was a sketch when this client didn't end up moving forward, but we got as far as sketching where they were a bicycle company. And we had these like really cool ideas about photographing the bikes on a black background and then using those in with like kind of interweaving with the text. So oftentimes, and this is a really unique use case, we would do this. Yeah, I'm still there. We would just do that to denote the bike. Doesn't look like a bike, but you get the idea, right? So you can do some simple, like slightly more complex sketching. Just think about how much time you're spending on each individual sketch. Okay, I've gone over like most of the big things. Anyone curious about like something super, super specific? Good. Sorry, I'm reading through the chat really quick. Yeah, good stuff. Sorry.
I know that we've done a lot of work with like grid work, and that is like a design principle that we will probably use in this.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of portfolios look like this, or it's very similar to this.
Mhm.
Do you feel like we should try to like push the bounds a little bit on
Yes.
this and like try to change things up to be something that people haven't really seen, or like how would you?
There is a balance. So there are 2 things, and I don't know, I'm a little old, so I'm going to tell you what I think, and whether or not that's still up to date, I'll let you guys decide or do the research to figure out. I think portfolios should not be overly flashy. said by the guy whose portfolio literally moves as the second that you load it. I don't think you should have a bunch of animation built into your website. I think we've all seen those websites. I get to say this because I own a lifted truck, that it's kind of like a guy driving a lifted truck, right? It's like, what are they compensating for? It's the same thing when it comes to your portfolio. If it's a bunch of flashing and moving shit, it's kind of like, what don't they know, right? Kind of makes me a little bit more suspicious. So I don't think your website should have a lot of animation. Also, animation is kind of losing touch a little bit now that accessibility is really picking up, because a lot of animations are inaccessible. Even something as simple as a parallax scroll can be inaccessible. Another
Sorry, what's a parallax?
good question. A parallax scroll is where let me make sure that I define it. There's a couple of different ways that you can do it, but often it's where the image and the website move together or in opposition to each other. Or sometimes it's where the image stays in place, but the website moves. There's a couple of different ways that you can do it, but it is relational to how the image and the site move together, or the lack thereof. Where was I going? Your question was about like you're pushing the boundaries with your portfolio. Another thing that your portfolio probably shouldn't be is just like so unconventional, it's difficult to navigate. I'll show you an example. It starts with an A. Someone remind me to come back to that when I remember. Yeah, there are some bad portfolios out there. And part of this project is for you to go out and find some portfolios. That's in the spreadsheet for you guys. Also find some jobs that you're interested in. Guys, it doesn't make any sense for you guys to have, now, I'm of the mindset that you should. The number one question I get every semester is, how many projects should I have in my portfolio? I don't fucking care. As long as you have more than 3 and 3 to 5, I think you're good. I am of the mindset that I think your portfolio should show all of your work across all of them. There are other people that very much disagree with that opinion. In the sense that some people would say that you should only show your best work. And my argument to that is like, why am I showing something if it's not my best? We all grow, right? I think that that's an important thing. I look was that English? I look back at some of my work from 10, 12 years ago, and yeah, it's easy for me to look at it and say, well, that could be better. But at the time, that was my best work. And I think it's important, especially as you get to the late stages of your career, to show where you were and where you've ended up. Because that is a part of your creative, not even your creative journey, your career journey, right? So that's that. Let's take a look. Yeah.
Sorry, for the like image we use of ourselves, what if we have like just a limited like number of like professional images we could use? Like, can we start designing around other images that we're thinking of?
Good question. So you are at one of the coolest schools ever and in one of the coolest programs ever. And the reason that I say that is because you have several resources at your disposal. One, if you are in a pinch for time, there is a lab or a media center that's over in Tempe, where you can go and get your headshot done for free. I think it's a white background, easy. Beyond that, you also have several hundred photo and video students that are on this campus that are more than happy to take your photo. We have a $3 or $4 million studio sitting on the other side of this campus. So there's options. Find a friend. Yeah.
I was just telling him I have a good camera and.
Oh, yeah.
I have to-
Shit, if you're in that big of a pinch, I will take your photo.
Right here in this class.
Right here, right here.
Like,
In a
well,
dimly
yeah,
lit
right there, yeah.
classroom.
What's the saying? Ready for my close-up, Mr. Debate. Sorry, guys. Give me a sec. Nothing wants to work today. Hello? Yeah, let's try that again.
Video headshot again. No, not just a headshot. I want myself shot in action.
I will do that for you. I will do that for you.
Yeah, okay.
If I can just see that.
I don't expect much from whatever he's offering.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a bunch of blurred photos.
That really, really low, what was it?
Shutter speed?
Yeah. You're just a blur.
It's for the visuals.
Oh my god. That might be one for ChatGPT, not gonna lie. I got it, oh.
Okay. Let me share my screen for the online folks here. This is a really good example of what you should not do in your portfolio. This is a really cool portfolio, but not for a designer, not for a professional. This is an artist, he's a sculptor. Hang on a sec, where is it?
That is
It's
it.
still loading.
It is still
That
loading.
is the photo.
So again, a good example of what not to do. These load times are atrocious, right? Oftentimes, I mean, we're all designers, let's face it. We want to have high quality images, we want to have good resolution, but there are limits to that. Now, there used to be a mindset around like images for the web should be 72 PPI and images for print should be 300 PPI. I think that's all but done with anymore, although a lot of places still adhere to that. Is anyone able to get this thing to load?
Yeah, I just loaded it on
Just
my.
loaded it? I don't know why it's not loading on my side.
It's not loading. You're right, it's interesting, I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
I'm loading for me. Wait, this is not.
Sorry, I would love to have an example here.
Is Daniel harsh?
That's the harsh one.
Yeah, that's the one, yeah, it's loaded.
Okay.
It's not even.
Whoa.
I would absolutely love to have an example, but it's not working.
Why is this too much?
Is it working for you?
Yes.
For you it's working, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Working for us.
It's also for him too.
Yeah.
Give me a sec. Sorry, guys.
It's like if I want to make precise.
That is
Going on.
crazy.
Are you like insane?
That is
This.
crazy.
So much weird. Oh my god, no, this is every work he's ever done. Jesus. Not in his. In his it's defined.
For just the. Alright, we're just gonna let that sit for a moment. Obviously, everyone's having a reaction to it, so that's a good sign. I think you guys are all capable of looking that one up on your own in case I'm not able to get it to pull up, but yeah, that's pretty bad. Is anyone able to find anything?
Like the words or
Work?
not?
Yeah, what exactly he does?
Honestly, it's this. I'm so stuck on the website. I don't know what he does.
I would sort of question, would you be able to find the same piece of work twice? Right?
Get lost.
Which often has to happen with your portfolio. Fun fact, one person doesn't look at your portfolio before you come in for an interview. Usually it is several people. The least I've ever seen is 3. The most I've ever seen was the entire corporate office. Yeah. Guys, people take hiring companies take hiring very, 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 very seriously. Let's face it, I mean, you guys, most of you might be entry level employees, maybe slightly above entry level. That's still not cheap. And while you guys might be looking at it, Ron, how much money would you think would be comfortable for you to make coming out of this program and going into the industry?
Arizona?
Yeah.
$70,000-$80,000?
70 to 80. Someone else? Different number? How much? Same?
80.
80? Anyone else? Different number?
90.
60, 90,
I was working in Canada and I was looking for an American company, they were paying me
150? Okay. So let's take the lower end of that. I think you said 60, right? I think on average we said 70. So let's go with 70. That's $70,000 to you. To you. Minus taxes.
Yeah, that was
Right? But to the company, $70,000 to hire an employee worth $70,000. How many people have to train you? 1, 2? Part of their time is going into that. Maybe a quarter to half of their time is actually going to be going into training you, at least for the first year. And then on top of that, they're also, assuming you're a full-time employee making $70,000, they also have health insurance to pay. That adds up. They also have additional taxes to pay for hiring an employee. They also have labor insurance that they have to pay now. They also have unemployment insurance to pay now. And not to mention the amount of resources that you need. You probably need a laptop. That's another $3,000 to $5,000 for a quality laptop that'll get the work done. You need a desk. You need monitors. You need resources like pens and paper. We're adding up, right? So while your $70,000 salary might be $70,000 to you, to a company, it's usually a little bit closer, doing some really rough and quick math here, you're probably closer to about $120,000 to the company in cost. And that's before you've even produced a result. So what you guys have to think about, and I'm getting a little bit outside of your portfolios here, but something that you need to think about is, how do I make myself worth that very fucking quickly? Very quickly. This is what we call domain knowledge. How do you ramp up on domain knowledge so quickly that you become an invaluable asset to that company? Okay? So all of these exercises that we've been doing in this class, the painful amount of iterative sketching, the different tools and softwares that you guys have learned, it's not enough to know Figma, guys. Not even close. If I want you to put yourself in perspective of 100, because this is where we're at, this is the low end, 100 other candidates for one job application on a good day. Not even looking at a job for a FANG company or anything like that. If you're applying to a FANG company, you're in the pool with several thousand people from all over the world. So minimizing that, let's say you're in the pool with a couple hundred people. What's going to differentiate you from all of them is maybe you know one extra software. Maybe you're not an asshole. Right? Start thinking about those things, because those are the stories that you need to be telling in your portfolio. And you also need to be thinking about your portfolio in the sense of what I call drive-by portfolio review. What that means is no one's actually reading your portfolio unless they're really interested. What's happening is someone's going, whoop, 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 nope, whoop, 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 yep, whoop, 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 nope. And what they're doing is they're going through about the first 30% of their applicant pool. And this might sound odd, but even if you're in the yes pile and you've gone through 30% of the applicant pool, you're automatically getting rejected. Period. Because then what they do is they look at all the qualifications that those first 30% had, and they're going to pick their top 3 out of that. And then they're going to start looking through the rest of their application pool, and they're going to get rid of everyone that doesn't have those attributes of the things that they want. And it's really easy to do that because we have ATS systems now, applicant tracking systems. And it can just automate and do most of that for us. So you've got to find this really perfect balance that gets you in that door in a field that is both growing in terms of the number of people that are getting jobs in this industry, but also shrinking in the number of jobs that are open and available. Okay? So what I'm trying to do with all of you is get you guys into that 30%. And ideally the top 3 in that 30%. Okay? Any questions? Y'all feel good about going and doing some of these sketches for your guys' portfolio? How many sketches? 50. 10 iterations, 5 pages, 10 iterations of 5 pages.
Would you recommend doing like 10 home pages first or go through?
No, actually, well, I don't think that matters per se. What's going to get difficult is you don't want to design in isolation. And what I mean by that is you don't want to design a homepage that looks like this and then an about page that looks totally different, right? There are structures that need to remain in place. If your header looks like this, probably ought to look like that for each of your pages, right? That's not something that's going to change, really shouldn't change from one page to the next. I also want to be really, really clear, you guys are designing a website, not an app, okay? Would anyone like my hot take? Apps? Sure. Apps are going to be dead in a couple years. When was the last time you downloaded an app because you really wanted to? Think about it. Genuine answer. You didn't go to Chili's and download their app because you really like going to Chili's. You downloaded their app because they were offering you free chips and salsa. Okay? So, if you guys want my opinion, and I don't want this to be career advice, but stop designing apps. Start designing websites that also offer service as a software or that market a product, right? The biggest companies in the world are not apps. You look like you have some concern about that. Spotify might be up there, but they're in a unique spot. They're actually not, they're not just an app, they're actually a service as a software. They deliver you music streaming service via an app. They're in like this weird spot. Yeah. But I mean, even think about someone name an app that you use really, really frequently that's not like Apple built or Spotify or something like that. Name an app. Instagram. How does Instagram make its money?
Everybody else.
No. How does Instagram make its money? Advertising. So what is Instagram? It's service as a software. It's an advertising platform disguised as a social media platform. You are the product. And that is a really big key to life. If anything is free, you're the product. So you gotta be careful with that one. Now, that all said, we're getting this close to pulling the plug on Facebook. Shows you how old I am. But I'm still an Instagram user. I get it. We all want to be connected, but I get a little bit whoa. I get really tired of every third scroll is an ad. Yeah. Right? So, I mean, think about that. If something is free or even really low cost, You're the product. Now, games. A lot of people have games on their phone, right? When was the last, I mean, most games that you download from like the App Store, those are free, right? Most of them. But then you get in and there's in-app purchases. You're the product. You gotta buy the special jewel that gets you through the gate, right? That's it. What was that?
Advertising.
Yeah, it's all advertising. It's all, but also think about this. None of those apps that are doing that are even on the stock exchange, much less are they big companies making a lot of money.
Meta is.
Meta is, but again, that's not
Yeah.
a consumer product, that's a business product. You make money these days, business to business, not business to consumer. Unless you're Apple, or I'm sorry, Amazon. But they're selling a product.
But they're also primarily like.
They're also,
themselves.
Amazon's just a mess.
30,000 people.
So do you think this everything will convert to this?
They're planning to
The
hire
person
2,000
is the product.
I think we'll end up having a transition where AI is gonna become the main route through which products are sold. I don't know how that'll be done. That's actually part of my PhD research, so we'll figure that out as we go. What was that?
What was the research?
Figuring out where data privacy and AI are kind of mixing and seeing where the future of AI goes. Because the internet is going to just become a chat. There's no real platforms yet that I know of that are really using AI for what it could be. In the sense that it is genuinely a route through which you can do anything. But we'll see where that goes. All right. Any final questions? We're kind of going into module 5. We're good? Yeah.
This is kind of like an industry question.
Yeah.
Do you feel like our jobs currently / like within the next year would be designing websites then? And do you feel
No.
like that's becoming obsolete?
Again, a lot of this is very speculative, so don't take this as career advice. I would just say these are things that I'm seeing as trends, whether or not they're right or even have a large enough sample size. Open for debate. I think as of right now, website and internet services are where the economy is at. Over something like an app, right? Does that mean that there is no space for any apps? No, I think you guys all should experience portfolio diversification. You should have a healthy dose of websites, apps, SaaS products, whatever in your portfolio, because at the end of the day, what you want in your portfolio is a good sample of a decent amount of things so that if a company has a job listing and they do something in SaaS and they're specifically a web-based product, you're like, yep, I've done something like that. Right? Experience tells the story, whether it was academic experience or industry experience. Some degree of experience is better than nothing, right? The reason that I got my job at Drive Time was because I had experience working in the vehicle and motor industry, even though they were totally different things prior to joining Drive Time. My experience from Yamaha got me my job at Drive Time, only because there was a connection within my portfolio. And I can almost guarantee you it was my work for Yamaha Financial Services, which is the lending end of Yamaha. That's how you get your loans, oftentimes, unless you're privately funding. So the hiring managers were able to make that connection. Similarly, I got my job at PetSmart because in my portfolio, my capstone project that I did in my undergrad was an outdoor campaign for Patagonia. I'd done it as spec work. And because I did that, I was then able to go on to PetSmart and build Arcadia Trail from the ground up. Don't ask me why I got my job here, they just like me, right? But no, in trueness, I had, when I was laid off from PetSmart, I had picked up a contracting role, building there's a college out in Tempe, they're called Bryan University. And they were trying to launch a graphic design program. And in order for them to get accredited, they needed someone with so many years of experience and a big enough name in the industry that they could get that program accredited. So I had to build and design those courses so that we could then test them, get them accredited, all of that good stuff. And then I went to be the program director there. And then from there got picked up at Flatiron. And then here got picked up because I had my teaching experience and had just graduated with my master's and did a great job. So there's a connection to every single job you will have, and oftentimes it is based on the work that you've done. Cool? Happy sketching.
Thank you.
Have a great week. Have a good one online.
What did it fuck up to? So final number.
Mine is like incredibly high now.
Good.
There's now 131 and the other one.
No, 55. I have. Yeah, I got 90. I got 90. From 81 to 90.